They're beautiful people.
Hey, Terrence, before we start this, can I ask a favor?
Of course.
Guys, I'd like to take a little video of anyone that's cosplaying in anything that I've been in, and I'd like to put that on social media. And at the end of this little film, I'd like to give them a round of applause. So, when I say action, if you guys don't mind, like, just raising your arms and screaming as loud as you can. Is that cool? And then you'll all be like, okay, cool.
Amazing. We can have director in your bio. Should I call you out again? You're directing this little film here.
Yeah, I'm actually, well, for stage, I'm a good worker. At a theater company in Seattle and in Chicago, and I can work with actors as well. I remember, but I don't know about camera direction, and there's a lot of technical stuff about directing film that I don't never bother to learn.
You don't have to. AI does all that now. You don't have to.
But it used to happen on Buffy, like television and film directors, they know a lot about the technical side of it. But some of them don't know what to tell actors or how to talk to them to get them to do what they want to do. And I would, especially with young actors, and I would be watching this director trying to make a point to a young actor and not quite getting there with them. And I'd be like, don't say it. And I know exactly what to say to get what he wants. And after a few months of that, I pulled the director aside and said, look, I don't want to step on your toes, but I think if you say this to the actor, they'll understand what you're needing. And then he tried that. He's like, oh my God, that was great. And then after working with one of these, after a few months of that, he would just turn to me on the set and be like, what? Just tell me. What do I say?
Yeah, drop the facade. That's nice coming from the theater, of course, where, there's a technical aspect, but it's not cameras and all of this sort of rigmarole that you're used to with TV. So let's back up for a second, because normally when we start Toronto Comic Con panel in March, I start by apologizing to the guests for our horrible weather. But today's actually pretty Northern California, where you're from. So you're welcome. Is that we'll start there?
No, I used to live in Chicago, so I was prepared. I had 2 coats.
That's right, always more than one coat. So when you think of Toronto, I know you've been here before, what comes to mind? What's special about Toronto for you?
I remember shooting a heist movie here in January and running around the streets of Toronto at night in only a tuxedo. And freezing oh my God. Well, I think of Toronto as kind of like what New York or Chicago wishes it was. Like we think we're like that, but we're fooling ourselves, kind of. Like it ain't that cool. Like whenever they use Toronto for New York, I'm just like, New York doesn't look that good. Come on, it's gotta be a Canadian city.
Yeah, a little too clean. Everyone is apologizing constantly.
Just too pretty, just too livable, too healthy, too mature.
Look at these compliments. This is fantastic. Yeah, we're starting on a great note here. So, let's start with Buffy, because, this is something maybe 1 or 2 of you have seen. I'm sure many of you are familiar. Spike was initially supposed to have a very small arc in season 2 before being killed off. There was already a romantic vampire on the show, and Joss did not want more. So, of course, as a professional actor, you're just going to do your best anyway, but maybe kind of knowing that, was there anything you did to make yourself indispensable? Like any tricks to stay in the story?
Yeah, cheating.
Explain.
Total open rebellion. Like I was told that in no uncertain terms, like Joss backed me up against the wall one time because I don't care how popular you are, you're dead, you hear me? I'm like, dude, it's your football, whatever. But I was told that I played a soulless vampire who didn't love or care about anything. And that vampires for Buffy were just metaphors for the challenges that one has to overcome in adolescence. And they were designed to be overcome. Vampires were not supposed to be felt for. And the only reason that we weren't going to be killed off every single episode was they didn't want to be like Scooby-Doo. You know, they want to have more interesting dead, you know. And they told me to play it like that, and I was like, you got it, boss. And they turned around, and I was like, F that. Because I came to Los Angeles because I had become a father, and I was a theater actor, and I had been told coming out of high school that if I choose the performing arts, I'm choosing poverty, and that you can't go into it for money or fame. You have to enjoy the act of acting enough to make the poverty worthwhile. And so I went in with my eyes open, and I had like 15 years of professional work. Had a blast, man. I was so poor, but I was so happy. And then I became a father, and I realized this new human being didn't make that deal. Right? And I had a new project. I wasn't going to produce theater anymore. I was going to produce humans, you know? And there's a big budget to that. And so I came down to Los Angeles, and I felt like I was on a mission from God, you know? Like, you can tell me what you want, but I got to pay for a human being back here, so I am going to try to find the love. Because that's how I found to connect with an audience is you got to find where the love is in the character and the relationship and the story. And it doesn't have to be puppy dog love. It can be love betrayed, love frustrated. It can be any, but love has got to be in there. And then the audience is like, yeah, I feel the same way. I've been through something similar. And so it was obvious that the first love was for Drusilla, right? And to get there, I undercut the script. Because on the page, Spike was really kind of rude to her quite often. Because he was designed, like the whole idea of that season was that Buffy and Angel sleep together, Angel goes evil, kills me off, so that he's the new big bad, takes up with Drusilla, so that Buffy can get her heart broken. That was the whole point. So I was just designed to be irritating toward Drusilla, so that when Angel killed me, people were like, oh, we want him dead anyway. So like I remember this one, I'm reading one scene and she's like lying, Drusilla's lying on a table and she's staring at the ceiling, and my line was like, also that's the ceiling love, it's not the stars, you know? And on the page that's pretty rude. And I remember, like, how am I going to turn that on his head? And I decided, oh, just play it like, oh true, that's my favorite thing about you, you can see the stars anyway. Oh my God. You know? And I just found a way to undercut that, and I could not believe they let me get away with it.
Well,
I couldn't believe that.
That's right, because I was going to say, you're doing it for the kids, so the stakes are high. That's a bit of a dangerous gamble to say, I'm kind of going to play against the script.
If it doesn't work, they're going to kill me off like they would have anyway, so...
That's true, you're nothing to lose, I guess, right? Still, were you... Did that incentivize you? Because you have a bit of a bad boy streak kind of energy. Was it fun to kind of go against the grain? Or were you nervous? It can be both, I suppose.
No, man, it's just like when you're a father and you can't provide health coverage to your baby, that's not a good place to be in. So almost anything becomes justified to get the doctor for your shit, you know? So like I guess fear really comes into it. You guys don't have to worry about that because you live in a real country.
We're going through the bottleneck right now, but
you know what you do? You do? Build a wall. You know?
I hear that a lot.
I don't think we're going to pay for it, but it'll still be worth it, kind of thing.
Well, we've got one started back here. We can just extend it. Maybe the Toronto Film School can chip in. Fantastic.
We're going to be coming to pick your fruit. You know, like there's no more jobs back there. The economy's going to be in ashes. We're like, can you please clean your hotel?
You started us on such an optimistic note. I thought we were. I was so hopeful. It's okay. I'm sure we'll come back.
Just let California join Canada.
You heard it here first.
We would.
So not only did you succeed in making Spike likable and sort of giving Spike longevity, but Spike almost instantly became a fan favorite with the show. So of course, that's in part due to your sort of fully realized and nuanced performance. It's not just a bad guy, but it's got so much breadth to it. But apart from that, why do you think this character resonated so much with audiences?
I think that that Buffy is for anyone that felt like an outcast in high school or junior high, which is pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Except for those few people. We won't talk about those people. But for the rest of us, we all felt kind of awkward, and it's a hard time. And so Buffy, all of the characters, Giles, every one of them of the core cast were all outcasts. None of them were popular in high school. They were all outcasts. But then, except for Cordelia, yeah, but she was. But even they cast Spike out. So among the outcasts, I was cast out. So they without, I don't think they realized they were doing this, but they were creating like the uber outcast. Yeah. So I think that's amazing.
People really latched on to that. Yeah, okay. Now, you mentioned this earlier that you started your career doing theater, classical theater, and I've heard a story, sort of an urban legend, that when you auditioned for Spike, you stood up in the audition room before you went in and performed some Shakespeare to the other Spikes to intimidate them, which, speaking of outcasts, is funny, because there's not a lot of rooms where doing Shakespeare would intimidate people.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a nerdy move. Is that true, though?
Yeah, it really is.
Tell us everything.
Oh my God. So, like, all the other actors who were auditioning for Spike. So I had just come from Seattle, where I had done a really successful Macbeth, and I was so arrogant, which worked for Spike. But when I first came down to Los Angeles, I felt like I was the only real actor that I was meeting. The rest of these people wanted to be stars, and that was a very different thing. I was an actor. And I hadn't yet realized that all of the toolbox that I developed for theater over the course from 10 years old to that time, when I was 34, I learned how to use certain tools. And none of them really applied to film. And I had to go back and relearn how to act for film, but I hadn't realized that yet. And so, arrogantly, I just thought, I am going to freak those out. I'm going to just give one of the best Macbeths that they've ever heard, because they all know the play, of course, or care about the play, of course. And so, yeah, I just did monologues. I would just be standing, because like a lot of times you will face a wall and do your dialogue so you don't freak everybody else. So instead of doing my Spike dialogue, I was like, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps at its petty pace from day to the last syllable of recorded time. And just on with all of this syllable.
You still remember it.
Oh yeah, I could go on, but we don't want to hear it. But and all yesterdays have lighted fools who were the dusty death. Out, brief camera. Life was but a walking shadow. It was a poor player who struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound of fury, signifying nothing. That's a lie, by the way. That's when we know that Macbeth is a total douchebag and we're not voting for him anymore. By the way.
You turned it around. Oh, that's nice. I see, of course, you're an accomplished voice actor, and I see the texture you brought to that voice as well.
Yeah, so they didn't think that I was a cool actor. They thought I was psychotic.
Yeah.
Luckily,
Okay.
Drusilla, Juliet was a stage actor too, and she got what I was trying to do.
She's there. You read with her.
Yeah. Okay. I'm only here today because Julia Lando liked me at that point. That's it. Yeah.
All right. The sliding doors. So, speaking of theater, you are not British. You were from northeastern
No,
California.
I'm only British if you pay me.
Well, here's the
And I haven't
thing.
paid me a quid, so no.
I'm sure you've done a British accent in theater in different capacities, but have you done one, quite like Spike? I know that Anthony had helped you with your accent, but was it hard to get? And do you remember one of the harder phrases to say?
I had about 3 days to get ready to play Spike. I got cast 3 days before we started filming, so I didn't have a lot of time. But you know, I have an accent to begin work for pretty much any kind of role that I would be cast for. So I've got, you know, the beginnings of the Swedish, the beginnings of the Russian, beginnings of, you know, all the different white accents out there. But then that's just the beginning point. Then you have to start working, refining it. And so that's what I had going in. And I would often hear from directors, "Boy, that was a great take, James, but is Spike Australian?" Like, so there was some work to do. And then I had a script where they had me say the word bullocks, which is English for something I can't say. And it was written by an American who spelled it in the script Bull-Locks, bullocks. So I said, yeah, bullocks. And then Tony Head came up when he saw that, he was like, "Don't say it like that, you brat. You are embarrassing me back home. I'm helping you now." And he tutored me by force.
So that, by force, that was the tricky one.
Yeah.
That's a tricky one. Yeah.
The other tricky thing was that British people speak very quickly. And so we would be so jealous of the other characters. Because they were, you know, playing Americans, and they would have to know their lines, well, you know, well enough to talk like that. And I'd have to be like,
To be a teenager in the 90s, right? So much time to think. So when you transitioned to Angel, which you famously did, Spike had to change to fit the dynamic of this new show. So what were some of the changes that you made to fit into that world? Was that intimidating for you? Was it very natural?
You know, for me, it felt like very much the same show because it was the same directors as Buffy, it was the same writers, the same producers. A lot of the stunt crew was the same. I worked with David on the show, so it was very little difference. But for me, the two things that stick out are A, Angel only shot for 12 hours a day, whereas
Buffy shoot for
20 hours a day. So I was just like, minimum day, baby, this is easy. And the other thing was that, like, when you play a secondary character on a show, like on Buffy, most of the lines of most of the cast are something like, "What do you think of that, Buffy? Oh, everyone wait for Buffy. Everyone get behind Buffy." You know, and that's only so interesting. Whereas I was a character going, "With stupid Buffy, you're gonna die." And that's just a much better place to be, as you know, than an actor. But then I fell in love with Buffy, and it started to be like, "Would you like a cup of tea, Buffy?" And I didn't get to do that anymore. And then I went over to Angel and quickly realized that my whole job was to ruin his day every day.
That's a sweet spot for you.
And David and I get along so well that I never had to worry about offending him. He loved it. He just loved the interplay, and so we really got to just try to just give each other every day.
I love that. So you mentioned some other characters, so here's kind of a curveball. Let's say you could be any character in the Buffy universe. It doesn't matter if you realistically be cast.
Yeah.
Anything. Which other character would you want to play?
Oh, definitely Spike.
Oh, really? That's Spike or Die.
Come on, dude. You say Xander?
No, I didn't say that.
No, I mean, I had the best role on the show. I mean, I did. If you read the scripts, it's the one that counts. I mean, I still pinch myself that I got to do that. So there's no other character. Like, no.
We support that.
Riley. Oh, I want to play Riley. Yeah. Andrew? No. Jonathan? No. Like, really? What? Maybe Cordelia, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, Cordelia could be good one. I do appreciate it. We'll spend the next 20 minutes just shouting character names here. So, of course, as I mentioned before, you are a writer, a lyric writer as well, all kinds of writers. So, like Spike before he became a vampire, did you also write any embarrassing, earnest love poetry as a teen? How did you get your start as a writer?
I don't remember.
That's okay.
That's really. Well, I used to journal, had a diary, and then I was like 12 or 13, and I decided to write a book. And it was about
small, right?
all the wisdom that I had acquired. And I called the book Pearls, because I didn't want anyone to know there's pearls of wisdom. I just wanted to be subtle about it. And I think I wrote 2 pages and realized I had exhausted everything that I could put in that book.
Those are all the pearls.
Let's see.
Is it published? Can we find it?
No.
Okay.
And then I guess in junior high we started making movies, so I was writing the scripts for that. They were all half made, but the scripts were finished. But back then it was filming in Super 8, and it's really expensive, especially for a junior high school student to afford. Like one roll of film is $20, and then processing it is another $20. It's $40 for 2 minutes of film, and you quickly realize there's no way you can get a budget for that.
Kids today just do not know how lucky they are.
Cell phone, like, you want to be a filmmaker? Just take out your phone, man. Better lens than we had. Yeah.
So you had to struggle, right? Yes, big time. Fast forward, you work with your band, Ghost of the Robots, and Ghost of the Robot fans here. Nice. So one of the songs from your latest Ghost of the Robot album, you wrote while doing Buffy. Is that true? And why did it take so long to get on the record? You're looking at me like that's not true. This is from the album Tin Man, but I'm not sure which song. Does someone know the name of the song? It's okay, we'll come back to it.
Yeah, there was actually one called Civilized Man that I wrote here in Toronto.
Wow.
Yeah.
We inspired you
I was
with our civilized nature.
No. One person, no. Civilized Man is all about really having an impulse to beat up another person. And not wanting to do that. And just kind of ruminating on how hard it is to be civilized. I mean, sometimes I really want to not have to be civilized. And what had happened was, I forget what I was filming, but I was filming this project and there was, you have like second and third ADs, and this guy was in charge of handling the extras, getting them from A to B, getting them on the set, off the set, and stuff like that. And he was just abusing them. He was yelling at them, belittling them, and it was driving me crazy. And I just wanted to thrash him. So I didn't, and I wrote the song instead. And I later found out he was a coke addict, and that's why he was acting that way. But he was still in
Well, put it into the art, right?
It can be horrible. At that time,
we just act nice.
Don't give you cocaine.
That's right. Oh boy.
That's true for all of humanity.
You got it. Let's steer it away from cocaine for a second. So, is there a lot of... No, that's okay. I'm taking you away from that. Thank you. Don't worry, son. Does that ring a bell?
Yes, that was... Thank you. Yeah.
Let's give it a round of applause for our citizen detective.
So I didn't need to go down that rabbit hole at all. Had you just said that a little earlier, thank you. Thank you for that. It's a really good, Don't Worry Son is all about trying to get to my son, I divorced his mother when he was a year and a half old, and which I regret now, but I can't take it back. And so we would shoot, like I said, like 20 hours a day on Buffy, or up to 20 hours. It was 16, 18. We never really went below 16, but it just meant that we were very, very tired. And I was always first up on Monday morning, which meant that I started filming at 4:30 in the morning on Monday. And then the schedule would back up throughout the week. so that we ended when the sun came up Saturday. And then every other weekend I would get on the highway and drive for 5.5 hours to go pick up a 4-year-old and hang out with him. Coffee works, thank God. But I would be praying for sunrise, because just you kind of wake up when the light hits, and when you're driving in the darkness and you're that tired, it's really not safe. I don't know. Has anybody here experienced black dogs driving? It's when you're kind of starting to hallucinate, and when there's like a little patch on the road, you think there's a dog running in front of the vehicle, and you swerve either into oncoming traffic or off the road to avoid the dog, and you die. And that's happened to me more than once. And so, yeah. But the song mostly is to my young son saying, "Don't worry, I'll get to you. I'm coming, and we're going to have a great time. And it's going to be magic." Yeah.
That's beautiful. So, man, so many other days. Wow. Is there a lot of, like on the Venn diagram of your fandom, are there a lot of Buffy fans at the Ghost of the Robot shows?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Like shouting out Spike kind of thing?
Take your shirt off! No!
Do you feel in any way, like I know, of course, you're so gracious, but do you feel constrained by that in any way? That Spike is joining every artistic project you do?
No.
Nice.
No.
Great.
No. Like, it's like asking Mick Jagger if it's too much to have been in the Stones. You know, like, come on, man. Like, you got to be Mick Jagger with the Stones. Like, don't be ashamed of that. It's something to be grateful for. And the nice thing about Ghost of the Robot is I'm not in charge of Ghost of the Robot. I was smart enough to get in the company of really good musicians and just be one of the members of the band. We're a complete democracy. Like, whoever writes the song has final word on how we record that song, but all of the decisions we all vote on, and I'm not voted all the time. Like, they don't pay attention to me at all. And I've learned that it's best that way. Even on my songs. They want to try something, and sometimes I'm like, "What are you doing, Matt?" And they're like, "Just, dude, trust me, man, trust me, man." And no, this is better. It really is. So what happens is, oftentimes the audience will come in because they want to see Spike sing, but then they leave having gotten a good show musically, and then they start buying the albums for their own, but if the lure is still Buffy, fine, because once we get them, we give them a good show.
Yeah. Also, I love, if you ever really wanted to get your way with the band, you could just stand up and start doing a Macbeth monologue to intimidate. Yeah. They will not know what to hit them. Okay, so one more quick one before we jump to some fan questions.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of voiceover work, sometimes under an alias. Can you talk a little bit about why use an alias, and for anyone maybe looking to adopt their own, how do you choose the perfect alias?
So I only have done this once, and it was for Dragon Ball Super. And
any fans?
So I was in a horrible Dragon Ball movie, live action, called Audition, and I know it's, I hate to say that, it's not that bad of a movie, but you're wrong. And so when I become friends with Christopher Sabat, who is the actual Piccolo. I play Piccolo, I'm the fake Piccolo in the movie, he's the real Piccolo in the anime. And he also is Vegeta, and he directs all of the English version dubs of Dragon Ball. And so I called him up when I heard that the Super was coming. I was like, "Dude, can I just get 5 lines on Super? Can I be like the mailman or something? Like, I'll do anything. I need redemption from the movie." And he's like, "I don't know, James. What can you do? Let's find out." And he had me come to Funimation in Texas.
You had to read for it.
Oh, completely. Like, he put me through the bases for like 2.5, 3 hours up there. Sent me home. Didn't hear for a long time. And then offered me Zonzi. And I was just blown over. And I said, okay, this is too sweet for words, but don't pay me. And he's like, "James, we have to pay you. Legally, we have to do that." And I said, "Well, what if we use a fake name?" Pause. actually, that would work. And I said, okay, so we got to come up with a name. And he calls me back 3 days later and goes, James, I just got this app on my phone. It rearranges the letters of your name into a new name. You want to hear your new name? Yes, tell me. Mr. Easter Jams. It's perfect. And I said, no! It's too cute, man. You're going to get caught. You can't put Mr. Easter Jams. Like, we're going to get caught. So, and she goes, well, what do you got? I'm like, well, give me a few days. And then I thought, well, I want it to be forgettable because the whole point is not to get caught. But I want it to also be cool. So I chose David Gray. Right? Which is, it's like, oh, that's a nice name, and then you forget. So, yeah.
I'm pretty partial to Mr. Easter Jams. I gotta say, it's pretty good. Beautiful. Okay. And for anyone looking to get an alias, they should maybe get that app. Start there.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not sponsoring us, so we're not going to say their name. We are going to move over to some fan questions, though. So these were submitted in advance.
Okay.
They are not necessarily here. If I do read your question, though, just give like a little hoop, just so we know.
Pick the spiciest one.
That's right.
Try to embarrass me.
They're pretty. I think they were pre-screened. They're pretty PG. This one's from Liam T in Toronto. James, Buffy the Vampire Slayer has some of the most compelling character arcs in TV history, and Spike's transformation from villain to anti-hero to champion was a huge part of that. What was the most rewarding part of playing that evolution?
That's the whole thing. The truth is that Spike was a very difficult fit for the show. Just because vampires were supposed to be, like I said, the metaphors for challenges, and then to try to fit him into that, it was very. They used to come up to me more than one season. I remember one of the producers would come up and say, we don't know what to do with you this year. And I'm like, oh, like last year, huh? And I'm like, yeah, we have the arc, we have all the character arcs, and we know how it all fits together, but we just can't think of anything. And I'd be like, oh, you're paying me, figure it out. And so what I think that they did is they just used Spike as necessary to accommodate the other characters' arcs. But because they're such good writers, that all stitched together into one journey. But because that's the way they had to do it, like a normal character arc is a smooth glide from beginning, middle, and end. It all kind of stitches together. Spike was just like that. You never knew it was going to happen. But it's still stitched together. And I think that's why it's such a surprising character. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful answer. I like how the first thing you say sounds like it was everything. And I think, oh, there's not going to be any more. And then you expound in this beautiful way. So thank you. Let's move over to the next one. So this is from Sophia M. from Mississauga. Sophia M, you here? Spike has such a distinct voice and physicality. How did you develop his accent and mannerisms? We talked a bit about the accent. Did they come naturally, or did it take time to perfect as far as the physicality of the character?
I just remember, what was it, in the beginning, when you have 3 days, you start ripping other actors off. It's like, there's a great book by Michael Caine on film acting that said, if you see something that you like, rip it off, you'll never get caught. Because you'll make it your own without knowing it. So I was like, okay, I'll just rip off. I ripped off Rutger Hauer in Blade Runner. Because like the first scene, I was talking to a minion, but the minion was way taller than me. And there's a scene in Blade Runner where Rutger Hauer's talking to one of his minions, but he's way taller than him. But Rutger is dominating completely anyway. And I just remember, just think of Rutger. Just think of that. And then Malcolm McDowell in Cat People, which is a weird Paul Schrader film about people that turn into cats. But it's a pretty cool movie. And Malcolm McDowell's a great actor, and so he's playing a guy who's also a cat. And he just had this feline and predatory walk that I used throughout the whole thing. That was Spike's walk. Yeah.
Now that you say it, you can kind of see it, but you would never know.
And if you go out and watch Cat People and watch him, you'd be like, he's using Spike's walk.
That's right, the other way around.
Yeah. And everything else just came very, very quickly and naturally. Just kind of right from the very beginning. I don't know why, but it just came.
Beautiful. And this is from Ethan R. in Brampton. You have played villains, heroes, and everything in between, whether it's Spike and Buffy, Brainiac and Smallville, Captain John Hart and Torchwood. Do you find it more fun to play the bad guy or the good guy?
Bad guy.
What's fun?
Man, I give it up to people who play heroes, man. That is work. Seriously, you're always running. If you're a hero, they call action, you gotta run for some reason. You're trying to save somebody, or you're trying to get safe from the monster or whatever, and you're always trying to save people, and everyone's complaining that you're not saving them right or quick enough or whatever, and you're always dredging up some childhood trauma so that the story has weight, you know? And it's just a lot. And when you're a villain, you just lurk. And you don't have to care about anyone, because they're very selfish villains, really, generally speaking. And you just wait for the hero to come sweating by, and you jump out of the shadow, hop on ahead, and go home.
I mean, sign me up, right? Okay, so this is a bit of a storyline.
And by the way,
yes.
So I've played so many villains, and I've come to realize. So I think that evil is when someone hurts another person for a reason other than self-defense. Like active, physical self-defense. Then you can cause suffering, and it's okay. It's dicey to think, like if you're protecting someone from physical assault, you better be very careful. Because you could end up causing suffering for no reason. But still, that one is allowable if you're very careful. All other reasons, you're doing evil, whether you realize it or not. Being a hero, being good, or heroically good, is if I help somebody when I have to sacrifice something to do it, or give something up to do it. And I found out about heroism by being father, mostly. And so on that metric, I've been a hero and I've been a villain, and I think we all have. And you kind of start to realize that. And you can start to play villains as human beings who are having a really bad day, or really bad month, or a stretch of years. And I found that it's easy for me to play a villain if I can think of myself either as a hero or as a victim. Because both of those mind states will excuse me from causing other people suffering. I'm only protecting myself. I'm the victim here. And that's a really easy way to play a human being who's being villainous. Or, look man, I'm saving a lot of people. I get to hurt some people to save a lot of people. That one works too. Yeah, so whenever I feel like I'm being heroic, or if I feel like I'm a victim, I'm like, oh, don't do anything right now. You know what I mean? Yeah.
100%. I love it. What a great answer. This is a storyline question. Yeah. We're so polite here. We're so polite. We clap for everything. Buffy fans have such strong opinions about Spike's relationships. Do you think he truly found redemption by the end of the series? And do you think his love for Buffy was real or more of an obsession? This is from Marcus J. in Ottawa.
Good question, Marcus. Yes to both. I think that Spike saw someone who was truly good. Truly, unequivocally a light in the world. And even though he was in darkness, that was a big attraction. And called out to the little spark of goodness in him. That was it. And I think at the end, my favorite line when she says, "I love you," and says, "No, you don't, but thanks for saying it," is that I think to me, what Spike is saying is, you can't love me. But I can love you because you're good, but you, look, I'm hot. You want me. I get it, right? But that can't be love. I now have a soul, and I can clearly see what I've been, and I've been horrible. I've been ripping innocent people to shreds. You can't love. And you've been right the whole time. I am beneath you. And I thought, okay, now he gets it. And I thought, you know what's going to happen? Is he's going to go out into the world, he's going to figure out what to do with this new soul of his. Basically, he's going to grow her. And once he thinks he actually deserves her, he's coming back for her. And they're getting there. Yeah, it's going to be a happy ending, but it's going to take him a while.
Go shoot it. Get someone on the phone. It sounds great. Okay, let's go to the final question. I think we're running out of time here. So, I'm going to sneak into you real quick. First, from Lucas B in Buffalo. Why do you think the show remains so timeless? Obviously, high school has changed. It's not like a one-to-one comparison. And what is it like to watch new generations discover the show?
Really good. And not surprising. No one's getting dinner anytime quick. I talk all of this. You know everything. I think that when a really good, great artist succeeds, they tap into something universal. So, like my favorite author, Shakespeare, and he never was like political or topical. He would find the underlying human experience that is common to everyone, that underlies whatever he's talking about. And I think that Buffy hit on something that is the most universal thing that I can think of, which is it's hard to be a human being. To just admit that is very powerful. And what Buffy did was ask the writers of Buffy to come up with their worst day, the day that they don't like to talk about, the one that keeps them up at night, when they either hurt somebody or were hurt, like the day they almost gave up, and then slap fangs, metaphorically speaking, on that painful memory of theirs and tell the whole world about it. And so it was a sustained act of courage and vulnerability from some very talented writers who were really bringing it. Like you would get on the set and you'd say, "Great script, man," and they'd be like,
it's their diary.
Because like, I hope you don't actually realize what I'm actually talking about. And just massive respect for those writers. And so Buffy gives space for that message. It's hard to be human. And then it says the kicker, which is, but life is worth it. Keep going. Don't give up. And a lot of projects have the don't give up part, and it's always good to say, but it lands so much harder with Buffy because of the first part, of giving space to the truth, which is hard for all of us. And I think they hit on something that's just always going to be true for as long as there's human beings on Earth. That is going to be true. And I think that's the main reason that Buffy is still, landing.
Beloved, I think, absolutely. And I think that's where we ended. What a gorgeous sentiment. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you.
I love you. Thank you.
Thank you to Toronto Film School. And put your hands together one more time for the wonderful James Marsters.
I'll see you tomorrow.